Tech Tuesday from Mr. Safe Tech here in College Station, Texas. Excited to be with arguably the guy who's the most passionate about crazy socks in public safety, Mr. Andrew Delaney. Thank you so much for joining us for Tech Tuesday, sir.
Thank you, Caleb. It's good to be here. Appreciate the time.
So tell us where you're calling in from. And since I brought it up, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about your sock business that you had.
So I'm out here in my shed in Charleston, South Carolina. I do have a side gig selling socks called Jack Jester. Keeps me busy on the side.
And we met, I don't know if we met, were you at the FirstNet Authority?
I was at the FirstNet Authority for about 3 years.
That is where we met. Yeah, we met at the Memorial Student Center.
Yep.
Texas A&M University, the first ever Under Fire.
Yep.
And I feel like to a degree, that was the first time you were able to publicly say you could go get FirstNet SIM cards right now. It was like March of 18 or March of
2018. Yep, exactly.
Man, time flies when you're having fun.
I know, right? I know.
So you left there, and I can see it over the back of your head. And I know that we're going to talk about Allerio, but can you tell us just briefly about Public Safety Network?
Sure. Yeah, the Public Safety Network was a firm that was created by some of my colleagues and myself out of the First Responder Network Authority. Once we had issued the contract to AT&T and all 50 states had opted in, we had a fully functional, dedicated broadband network for first responders in the U.S. You saw Verizon act in kind. You're seeing T-Mobile act in kind. We then created a consulting firm to help other companies bring software, hardware, cloud technologies onto those types of networks as you see more and more reliance on those types of devices. I think we just saw a survey come out that Verizon had sponsored. The first time we've heard first responders say they rely on their smartphones more than their LMR radios. So, pretty interesting stuff coming out.
Well, I think in terms of our Tech Tuesdays, and trust me, we're going to get into Allerio, but I think in terms of our Tech Tuesdays, it's probably the first chance we've really had to bring up FirstNet, at least the First Responder Network Authority. And I think it's really important also because of what you're going to talk about with Allerio. So could you just give our audience a little better understanding for those that you have lived under a rock and you didn't know what FirstNet was, or even the struggles it took us to get FirstNet, the First Responder Network Authority here in the United States. Could you give us just a little touch on that?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. But it was an effort.
Yeah,
it was an effort started back as early as 2001 with the September 11th attacks, and a big push by the public safety community to get dedicated spectrum for themselves, to have a communication lane that was interoperable amongst first responders. So fast forward many years, the U.S. Congress allocated spectrum to the FirstNet Authority. The authority then went out to bid for a contract for a commercial partner to build that network. AT&T was the winner of that. So you now have the FirstNet network, which is being built out. I think it's almost at 90% complete from the original contract terms. They have about 2.5 million connections. And as I said, it's innovation across the industry, where you have competing solutions from other commercial carriers. You have other countries replicating what's being done here as well. And this proliferation of devices and applications that are being built on those networks.
And it just blows my mind that we didn't have that. I mean, now we do, but there's still some areas where we really struggle with that continuous connectivity. And, I think to a degree, that's probably why Public Safety Network started creating some of these other opportunities for software companies, hardware companies. And one of those that you serve on, now I think you have a couple of titles, but with Allerio, is it VP of Sales, or what's the title at Allerio?
Yeah, I head up sales, and I head up the operations side of the business right now as well.
All right, so just introduce us to Allerio, and we'll go a little deeper into that.
Sure. So Allerio is essentially a Wi-Fi hotspot on steroids. It's a portable device, weighs less than 2 pounds. One of the unique features of it is that it can connect simultaneously to 3 different LTE networks. So you can see on the device here itself, there's LED lights that indicate the connectivity across the 3 LTE networks. It switches between them simultaneously, so you can have a application running and have no downtime as you seamlessly switch between the networks. So a big use case we see is larger jurisdictions that might have good Verizon coverage on one side of the town, good AT&T coverage on the other, and you have to pick one carrier or pay double the price in order to have access to both carriers. So we built all of that into our box. And in addition, we took off a lot of the administrative burden. So you're not actually having to manage your cell phone carrier bills yourself. It's all actually packaged into one monthly fee or annual fee for access to the device. So we're actually taking a platform as a service approach. So we package the hardware, the firmware, any updates, any warranties, as well as those data plans that we manage into that one monthly fee. So really it's a taking the power of an in-vehicle router and giving you the ability to take it with you into the home or on scene to the emergency where you can't take a vehicle. So we're seeing a lot of adoption in the telemedicine space out of particularly obviously out of COVID. The ability to go into a building with your PPE, with your Wi-Fi in hand, that your vehicle Wi-Fi can't reach that far. So we're seeing a lot of different applications, particularly around being able to access that data away from the vehicle.
So paramedics are adopting this technology and big fans of being able to take this into the building. Did they talk me through that a little bit more? Are we more sophisticated than I think we are? I mean, are we using?
Yeah. So essentially, what a medic would bring into the building could be a multitude of things, but what every medic brings with them is a patient monitor, right? A Zoll defibrillator, a Philips, a Stryker LifePak, and most of those, if not all of them, are Wi-Fi capable. You can actually stream the 12 leads or push the 12 leads from the patient bedside. You don't have to pull the patient out of their home to the truck in order to do so. There's also smartphones or tablets that are used for not only patient reporting, but also communication. So applications like Pulsera. And then of course you have the, not every paramedic, but you have the video conference capability for things like telemedicine and community paramedicine.
So I was just talking about this recently. 2019, I went to the DHS First Responder Resource Group meeting out in San Diego. And I was talking to a private hospital provider that happened to be out there, and they were one of the largest ambulance providers in New York City. And he said that if they could prevent a patient transport, I'm just going to make a number up because I think it still tells the point. Is like transporting a patient costs like $7,000 to $9,000, and if they could reduce that, they wanted to, and the only way they were able to do that is if they actually went in the home, is they had to have like a 24-hour monitoring system of that patient. But connectivity was their largest inhibitor. And if they couldn't receive or they couldn't get a strong enough signal, they would still have to transport that patient because they couldn't maintain. Have you seen anyone that's actually like leaving this behind to allow that type of interaction where it stays with the patient for a period of time and then the department would come back and collect it? Or are we not there yet?
So I haven't seen that, but I agree with you. What a gap that we saw with one of our tests actually out in Long Island. Again, it was a similar private EMS service, was on the forward-leaning side of doing telemedicine in the home, but they couldn't rely on it because they can only establish a video connection like 40% of the time.
Right.
And that was on the main carrier there. So, I mean, we did a test with them and we were able to increase that percentage of reliability of that video while you're in the home.
So tell me a little bit about maybe I'm not saying it right. Allerio?
Allerio, yeah.
Allerio. Tell me a little bit about the history of Allerio. I mean, how kind of old is the company? Where are you guys based? I know you said you're in San Diego, but I think through COVID, your team of Public Safety Network has done probably the most remarkable job, just because you guys almost started as if you knew the world was always going to work remotely, because you have people
Yeah.
in Minnesota and Oregon, and you're in South Carolina. But kind of where are you guys based? And tell me a little bit about what are you seeing as an adoption rate where maybe our listeners could reach out to you? Do they typically do a pilot, or they're doing grant funding? What's a way to engage you guys and start trying to go down the path of seeing if this is a fit for them?
Yeah, so we're headquartered out of Duluth, Minnesota. As I said, I'm in Charleston. We have folks in Oregon as well. Essentially to back up quick on the history. So we saw coming out of FirstNet that based on the terrestrial reach of not only FirstNet but the other AT&T or the other carriers, they don't reach 100% of the geography, and they never will. So we saw an opportunity to kind of aggregate the access to those LTE networks in a simple solution. Following that method, we do offer a pilot program. We're actually now running $400 a month. We'll ship you a device. You can try it out in your local jurisdiction, and we'll work with you on what the data consumption looks like, and then we'll put you into an appropriate monthly rate plan. And we can get going if we prove out our enhancements in connectivity.
And so reaching out to you, the best way to do that, I know Jerry and my team will do everything they can to get your information out there and make it available. Talk to me a little bit about kind of what adoption has looked like so far. The company, just in that history, leaving FirstNet. So Allerio is 3 to 5 years old, somewhere in there.
Yeah, Larry is about 3 years old. We've been in full production mode of selling production units for a little bit under a year now. And we've seen adoption in the fire service in Colorado for typical fire operations, accessing CAD, RMS, things like that. We've seen agencies in Arkansas adopt specifically around telemedicine, because there was a state grant program to adopt both a software solution and a connectivity solution in order to achieve that telemedicine workflow. And then we've seen adoption out in Long Island as well, around that, both private ambulance service as well as public municipal fire departments.
So let me ask you one question, and I wish I would have Googled this beforehand, so maybe we'll edit this. But $65 billion is about to be passed for broadband expansion. And in my mind, broadband isn't necessarily private carrier SIM cards. It's access to Wi-Fi, public access Wi-Fi, extending school networks out to students, and potentially networks as well for HUD housing and for people on Medicaid, Medicare. How does your product work in sort of that Wi-Fi space? If you're not going to use a SIM card, is that still an area where y'all play well or not? Or maybe I miscategorized it. Maybe I don't know.
We could play well there, because there is actually, so while we have 3 LTE networks that we can connect to, we also have a second Wi-Fi access point. Mm-hmm. So if there were citywide Wi-Fi, we could switch between accessing the citywide Wi-Fi versus going outside of that private network or that city Wi-Fi network. We could hit LTE once we roam out of that area.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, let me ask you, are you seeing more of a difficulty of connectivity in dense urban spaces, or are you seeing more of it in more rural areas?
So the sweet spot for us with this device is a larger county that has a urban suburban piece to it, but then a rural piece to it.
Yeah.
Those are very likely to have, sparse deployment by the carriers where they can significantly increase their coverage. Like Loudoun County, Virginia, we proved in a test that we increased good coverage by 50% and decreased bad coverage by 50%. So that's kind of our sweet spot, really.
Yeah. So can you, I don't know that you would, but could you double up on one carrier? You mentioned you could have 3 different LTE SIMs. I don't know if you would do that. I'm just thinking out loud, could I have 2 Verizon lines and an AT&T line? Or
No, because each SIM is going to pull every band across that carrier.
I got you.
So you're
I'm
getting
not.
the best
I'm
you
trying to
can.
figure out. I'm trying to ask the questions that the kiddos would need to know. Awesome. So we're kind of getting into the end of the year here, and going into the end of the year, there's opportunities to still do some pilots with you guys, and what do you have planned for the first part of next year, and places where hopefully we'll get to see you, and these people can reach out to you as well, and maybe catch you at some shows.
Yeah. So we'll be at all the major shows, whether we exhibit or not. We'll be there. And really, what we're looking for in 2022 is kind of to double down on our distributors and resellers and partners as well, because we really want to be, that pipe that enables the other software and other hardware that can be part of that, end-to-end solution that first responders truly need.
Yeah. Was there anything else that we here at SafeTech or, reach out to our membership? Is there anything else that you can think of that, we could do to help you guys out?
No, this has been great. I appreciate the time, and keep up the good work, and looking forward to everything else coming out of SafeTech and anything we can do together in the future.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the time. I know you guys are doing great work across your organization, both Public Safety Network and then also Allerio. So excited about that. Let me ask you one quick question. Is this something that consumers can buy, or is it primarily focused around just public safety?
It's primarily focused around public safety because we do have that FirstNet SIM built into the device. If we saw demand on the enterprise or consumer side, we could address that, but we're really heads down focused on first responders right now.
So all good stuff, man. Thank you so much for everything you do. Also, there's very few of us that start in public safety and stay in public safety. Some people just get out of here. So I really appreciate you continue to march the march and help bring great technology to our first responders across the country. So Drew, have a great day. Thank you so much. Don't forget to also check out his fantastic stock selection that he has as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys again on the next Tech Tuesday. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Thanks, guys. Take care,
buddy. Hey, good work, dude. See ya.